And welcome to March 16th, 2009 Lowell Planning Board meeting. Tonight we have one public hearing on for a zoning amendment on Weber Street. We have some new business with the Hamilton Canal District, and we have a couple of matters on for old business, which is 106 Marginal Street, 76 to 80 Roger Street, which is known as the Old Mother Hubbard project. And we also have matters that have been continued for 1436 and 1450 Gorham Street, which is known as River's Edge. At this point in time, I'd like to take the matter of the Hamilton Canal District definitive subdivision first, if we could. This matter had been approved by the Planning Board for the definitive subdivision at our last meeting on March 2nd, and it's here tonight for the Planning Board members to sign the Mylar definitive subdivision plan. Any board members have any comments on that? If not, the board will accept the Mylar and we will sign the Mylar. Do you need that signed tonight for us now, or can we sign it after the meeting? You can receive it later.
You can sign it after the meeting, yes.
Okay. All right, so the board's approved that we will sign the Mylar. Okay, thank you. Moving along, I'll go back to the public hearing. This is a zoning amendment. This is 18-20 Weber Street. In accordance with Mass General Laws, Chapter 40A, Section 5, the Lowell Planning Board will hold a public hearing to hear all interested persons relative to an ordinance to amend the Code of Ordinances, City of Lowell, Massachusetts, with respect to Chapter 290, therefore entitled Zoning. The amendment would extend the regional retail zoning district to include the parcels located at 18-20 Weber Street. The parcels are currently located in the traditional single-family zoning district. May we hear the case for the applicant, please?
Mr. Chairman, before we begin, I'm going to be recusing myself from the deliberation and vote on this matter.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Claremont. Okay.
Gentlemen, members of the board, for the record, James Flood, 81 Bridge.
The light on?
James Flood, 81 Bridge Street, Lowell, Mass., representing Gary Blaisdell, the owner of the property. What we are before you tonight is to request a favorable recommendation of the City Council to extend the existing RR zone to cover the property located at 18 to 20 Weber Street. Right now, the RR zone goes all the way around, as I've marked in pink, and also on the other side of Weber Street, it comes approximately to the middle of the property. I think the reason they did it that way because there was a home there when they came up with the new zoning plan. Mr. Blaisdell has a purchase and sale agreement with the owner of the property who's over here to purchase it. What he would like to do is to expand his business and renovate the whole building and extend it down to the side. I think if you've driven by there, you'll see that he runs a very clean business. He's been in operation for approximately 15 years, and I don't think there's been any problems. So, unfortunately, he's not with us tonight, but hopefully if you have any questions, I can answer them. But that's what we're asking for, is a favorable recommendation so we can go to the City Council and hopefully obtain the zone extension.
Thank you, Council. Anyone else like to speak in? Anyone like to speak in favor of the zoning amendment? Is the zoning amendment in favor? In favor? In favor? Hearing none, that portion of the public hearing is closed. Anyone like to speak in opposition of the zoning amendment? In opposition? In opposition? Hearing none, that portion of the public hearing is closed. Any of the board members have any comments or questions for Attorney Flood? Yes, Mr. Lockhart?
I'm just curious as to what the abutter, have you talked to the abutter there, or
The abutter in this house is Attorney Arthur Santos. I spoke to him. He has no problem with it. His family's lived there for years, so they have no problem with it.
All right,
He runs his law office out of there. Yep.
right, I'm familiar with that. Any of the others? Is one kind of across the street, kitty corner? Have you talked with anybody else there?
I've heard no comments from anybody. I don't know whether Mrs. Tangway has. She's the owner.
You just give us your name and address for the record, please, ma'am.
Ann Tangway, 18 Weber Street. I am the owner of the property at 18 and 20 Weber Street. I spoke to the people that own the business diagonally across from me, which is the photo lab. He owns the building. I spoke to him. I showed him the picture. He said, I have no problem. I spoke to the gentleman that owns the two-family house that is beside him in the big yard, and he had no problem, so. And those were my 3 abutters.
Thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome.
Anything else, Ms. Lockhart? No? Any other board members, any questions?
Just to Attorney Flood, the petitioner is, just if I'm looking at the architectural rendering here, they're looking to, where it's an L shape, they're looking to extend the build, I'm assuming they're taking down that, are they taking down that?
No, they're gonna renovate the whole front of the building, and they're gonna extend it down here. They're gonna take down the...
They're gonna take down the residential home,
Yeah.
and then extend that portion of the
Right.
building.
Right.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, please.
Thank you. So I know that tonight, we can't make zoning changes, obviously. It's not a binding decision, but we can only make recommendations to the city council. I have some concerns about extending that district. I feel as though, we need to be careful about protecting our neighborhoods and allowing residential areas to be nibbled away at, which happens over time. I was up there yesterday and drove up and down Weber Street, which is a beautiful neighborhood street. All the houses are well kept. There's clearly pride in ownership, and in spite of the fact that Middlesex Street has become quite a busy thoroughfare, Weber Street seems to be protecting itself from the hustle and bustle of that thoroughfare. I feel as though this creating such a large regional retail district on the corner like that, begins to degrade that. I think it would create more traffic up and down the street, and who knows what, even though I'm sure this owner, clearly the owner takes care of his property as well. That was obvious, in looking that over. So I think he's a reliable individual, but who knows what happens there in the future. We could have anything in that spot once the zoning is changed. So I have some real concerns about extending the district that far up Weber Street because, I feel as though it's a nice neighborhood street, and that's a commodity. That's a tough commodity to find these days, and I want to make sure we maintain it that way.
Well, the only response I have, Mr. Gentleman, is that on the other side, on West Aldea Street, it goes back about 500 feet, the RR zone. So, and then on the middle here, it's down to the middle of the lot. So that's all RR zone on both sides, except for a portion of this lot. So I don't think it's a real change to what's going on there.
Well, I think it's a significant change in that seems like you're talking about that entire square there changing from...
Yeah, it's 10,000 square feet.
Yeah, 10,000 square feet,
Yeah.
which in that neighborhood's a large lot, right? So, and that house defines traditional two-family. It's clearly a traditional two-family
Well, it's a
house.
single-family zone.
It's a traditional two-family, is it not?
It's a single-family zone, it's TSF. And I think most of them are two families there. so.
Right. So, nonetheless, I have some concerns about shifting from residential to regional retail.
Any other board members, any questions? So is half the zone the existing TSF zone? I see you have the line going through it.
On the other side of the street, it goes down to here.
But where they have the existing house, it looks like there's an arrow on our plan, a little bit. If you show us the box that you have right there, yeah. Inside that box, you have a,
Is TSF.
Right.
TSF. But on the other side of the street, it's RR down to that point, and in the back part, it's all RR. About, it looks like it's 519 feet back.
so the lot is like L-shaped now?
Yeah.
Right, okay. Oh, that's the RR?
That's the existing lot.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, I just...
Yes, Mr. Fischett.
Just kind of, and I certainly, understand what Mr. Gendron is saying as he's looking at the site. I just, it is unique as I look at those lots along Middlesex Street, because on this particular site on West Aldier, you can see where it does, matter of fact, that zone, I think, abuts 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 residential properties on the backside. And then I'm looking at the other lot on Middlesex Street in the corner of Aldier, and that looks like it actually, the zone goes down further than what's being asked here. Then the next corner over, it's probably halfway down this particular lot. And the lot across the street on Weber, actually, as Attorney Flood pointed out, goes down approximately halfway down the length of this lot. Clearly, it's jagged, and it's not as clear looking at where the demarcation zone is of that retail area, or regional retail. I certainly can appreciate the concerns that Mr. Gendron raised. I just, however, when I look at the surrounding area and I look at that lot as it relates to it, I think I don't believe I would have an issue recommending approval of the extension of the zone.
Do you have further comment?
I have a question.
Sure.
I'm just a little confused about, what is the specific area that we're rezoning? That whole, okay, yeah, right, in the blue.
And he wants his piece, he had to go into that.
All right, and is that home that's there now gonna remain there?
No, it's going to be torn down.
It's gonna be torn down, okay. That's all I have.
Just a question, on the L shape, closest to you, Mr. Flood, in the red? Right. Now, so I see inside there you have the existing building, so that L shape goes your building stops there, then approximately how far would it be from the building to where the retail zone goes further down? It looks like it goes down behind many of the other houses on Weber Street?
Down 519 feet.
519 feet, okay.
That's kind
Right. And I would say down to here is like, there's 219, so maybe double the distance. This looks like this is 119 to this point, and there's another 100 feet.
Any other comments from the board members? If not, we're going to entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to recommend to the city council to extend the regional retail zoning district to the outline of the plans that have been presented.
I'll second that, Mr. Chairman.
The motion's made and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes yes. And any opposition?
No.
Okay. So we have 3 in favor, 1 against, and 1 abstention. So the recommendation goes from here. The matter goes before the city council for a public hearing in regards to the zoning change. As indicated, we're voting a recommending body, so our vote tonight has no credence before the binding effect before the city council. Thank you, Councilor. The next matter we have is a continuation of a public hearing that we had on our last meeting, which was on March 2nd. This is the matter which is considered for old business. This is the project of 106 Marginal Street. The project located at the above-listed address was before the planning board on March 2nd for a public hearing. The board continued the item for additional time to review existing materials. The proposal concludes the construction of 6-story, 171,092 square foot residential building containing 110 dwelling units and a 185 parking lot and landscaping to include on-site stormwater management. An additional 35 parking spaces are provided on the ground floor of the building for a total of 220 parking spaces. Access to the site will be made available via Marginal Street, entering the west side of the site. The 180,750 square foot, approximately 4.2 acre site is located in the institutional zoning district and requires a site plan review and a special permit under the Lowell zoning code. When the matter was before us on March 2nd, we had a power outage here at City Hall, so the planning board met at the Arthur Hammer Conference Room, the Division of Planning and Development. That night, we did have a public hearing. The matter was open to the public. We heard from the applicant. We heard from people in favor of the project. Board members all made comments on the matter. And then there was a motion to continue the matter to tonight's meeting for further time for board members to digest some questions in regards to the plan. Saying that, the matter is on tonight as considered for old business since we did close the public hearing, and after a long discussion with board members, the motion came up to request the matter be continued. So at this point in time, the public hearing has been closed. I'll turn it over at this point in time if any board members have any questions and want to go further on any questions. And if the applicant or anybody else has any questions, they can address those through myself, and we'll go from there.
Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Sure.
Just to kind of lay out what there's two concerns, I think, before the board here this evening. And I think one of them is a broader implication of the institutional zone and some of the challenges that lie ahead in this particular project as it's presented before us. And I think it's very important. There's some points I think is very important that I want to make here this evening. First of all, I have to say that I'm concerned with a high-density residential development in an institutional zone that is not tied to the university. The reason for the institutional zone was to be able to address student housing issues as well in a well-thought-out manner with proper controls and provisions incorporated into the project to address the issues. When you look at the challenges with student housing, and there was an article in the newspaper regarding the issue, and this site was involved in this, but I think what speaks volumes regarding the student housing is it states that Westfield State President Evan DeBell said the college will enter a 10-year lease with the chosen developers. The buildings will be privately owned and taxable, but the college will manage them and provide security and residence directives. And that was one of the advantages of having an institutional zone in our zoning code. However, there are unintentional consequences sometimes with some of these issues, and I think what's becoming very clear is some shortcomings in that institutional zone which I think need to be addressed. Part of the criteria of the special permit for a residential development in the institutional zone, and the number one criteria is the application to master plan. So as I look at the tools that we have as a member of the planning board on a large project that comes before us, I go to the tools that are provided, and that's the zoning code and the city's master plan. And the criteria of meeting the master plan is spelled out in the zoning code. It said, how does this project adhere to apply and promote the goals of the City of Lowell's comprehensive master plan? Successful projects should present specific connections between the goals of the master plan and the project themselves. And if I go to the master plan on page 56, 4.1.4, action step, titled, Facilitate and Encourage the Development of Student Housing in the City of Lowell to Reduce the Impact of Student Tenants on the Affordability of Rental Housing. If I go to actions, one of the action steps, it's partner with UMass Lowell and neighborhood groups to identify areas with convenient access to the university that would be suitable for the development of new student housing, such as on-campus dormitories and off-campus privately owned student housing. The other item in the master plan is titled Institutional Cultural Development Action, strengthen the physical and conceptual connections between UMass campus and the downtown to draw more students into the downtown for shopping, dining, and cultural activities. As I look at the tools that we have to deal with developments in the institutional zone and what the intentions were, and I look at what possibly can come before us, I'm troubled with what we have to work with. And this particular site is very unique. I think some of the challenges that lie ahead with this board in the City of Lowell, and I think that, you know, at this point it's well documented with the university's intention to increase the dorms in the City of Lowell. And I believe in the same article, it talks about right now approximately 25% of the 13,479 students live on campus, 25% live on campus. They want to increase that to 50%. They're looking at increasing the beds by 2,100 in the City of Lowell. So I think as we prepare as a city and the planning department and this planning board, and I look at the institutional zone, and I look at the master plan, if you followed what was discussed and presented some time ago near the Lawrence Mills, and I think Attorney Flood was aware of that, the residents at the Lawrence Mills certainly came out in opposition of anything being proposed over there for dormitories. At this point, I'm looking at really a disconnect between the master plan, some of the concerns expressed by residents in the institutional zone. I think we have something that we have to really take a good look at as to how we're going to proceed. I think in this economy, one of the largest residential developments we're going to see probably in the next couple of years is going to be dormitory housing being proposed here in the City of Lowell. And I think at this point, the institutional zone doesn't really address some of the unintended consequences of high-dense residential development not being connected to the university, not being presented as dormitories. With that, Mr. Chairman, I have a couple things that I'd like to address. This site-specific and this particular issue. I think, and I did speak to Aaron. I had spoken to Adam Bakey earlier regarding the UMass Lowell having access to the city's master plan. There's actually a protectable master plan. There may be some unique features with this site that may not be a concern to the direct neighborhood, but I can tell you that there are some other institutional zones in this city that I think will be a different reaction from the neighborhood. And I think this city needs to be prepared to address that properly for several reasons. The neighborhoods, the success of the university in their quest to increase the dorms, in directing it in a well thought out manner. That was the reason for creating the master plan. That was the reason to revise the zoning code, is to be proactive with large residential development as it relates to institutions and as it relates to residential development within the city. I would like to make a motion, Mr. Chairman, if we could, from this board, asking the Department of Planning and Development, and I do know they are looking at that institutional zone at this point in time, but to really take a look at the institutional zone, perhaps even at this point having some discussions and bring representatives from UMass Lowell to the table, and perhaps it may even require the zoning subcommittee from the city council. But I think that needs to be, that's one step that needs to be taken, because we're now in a situation where we're trying to react, and the whole idea was to try to be proactive. So I would like to offer that as a motion, Mr. Chairman, and then I would like to discuss some of the site-specific issues with this particular development.
I'll second that motion, Mr. Chairman.
How about if so, let me back up here. On the motion would be to, could you rephrase that? You want the
Sure.
motion to have all the parties get together for the institutional zone?
Well, to revisit this institutional zone, I think that we're going to have to make some revisions to the institutional zone. I think we need to look at the city's master plan. I think that 2,100 additional dorms being proposed for the city, I think is something that we have to be prepared to address in a positive way. And if we're going to be reacting in a way that was not intended, I don't think it does the university any good. I don't think it does the neighborhoods in the city any good. And it doesn't do the city as a whole any good, Mr. Chairman. As I think I stated at the last meeting, I was involved on the ground floor with all of these planning documents, with the rezoning. I've worked closely with these issues for the last decade. I've had some reservations with the institutional zone. I think this accentuates some of the concerns that I've had with the institutional zone. I think back in 2005, there were a couple large developments presented within the institutional zone that I had concerns with, and how it was put forth, and it was not put forth with the intent on which the zone was created. And I think that we're missing an opportunity. We're missing an opportunity to do it right, and that concerns me tremendously.
I don't have a problem with the matter, making a motion that we continue it and have the subdivision, and have people sit down for the zone change. But I think what we have to do is address this issue tonight.
I'm sorry, Mr.
Because
Chairman.
I'm thinking,
Yep.
at the time you get a zone change done, when we're gonna need the applicant to, we're gonna need the subcommittee on it, and time, that will be, I don't know if you're looking for that to be contingent upon this, or if that's just a separate issue to look at after this project is resolved one way or another.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I probably didn't express myself properly. My intention is I do want to, that's where we have two issues at hand here.
Right.
I want to see if we can't resolve some of the issues relative to this particular
Okay.
site, but this really has brought to a head some of the issues
Okay.
with that institutional
Sure.
zone.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. I mean, for comment that we recommend a zoning change in the future to look at the institutional zone, I don't think we have a problem with that. So I think maybe if we can, at this point in time, just, if you could stick to what specific issues you have at this point, and when we carry those first, and then we can bring that up later if need be.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
No problem.
Relative to the concerns with the site, and I went back, I mean, this is a serious project, and I went back to and actually listened to the hearing from 2007 when we approved the dormitories that were presented. I went back to look at the minutes. I think it was very clear what my concerns were, even as the dormitory was presented. Made it very clear, as quoted, one of my biggest concerns is the connection with the university, because that is key. That's in the minutes of the meeting. Relative to the management, again, quoted in the minutes, has there been any discussion with the neighborhood with regards to how the students on this site will be handled with regards to university managing the dorms? And I think that was very crucial, because at the time, there was support, and there was nobody speaking in opposition, but nobody was looking at this as it relates to the student housing on that site. I was involved with neighborhood groups, and I have a lot of respect for what they do, and dealing with neighbors and the concerns that the neighbors have, and usually the first concern is, how does it affect me directly? This is a unique site, because it really is tucked away. I think a lot of the people that would have concerns were concerned with the traffic. I think I'd expressed it at the last meeting. I appreciate what the petitioners heard, the concerns of the residents relative to some of the traffic impact on some of the solutions that were being presented regarding access to the site. And certainly that was taken into account. But what concerned me is that the questions weren't being asked relative to management. And the unintended consequences, and I know we're looking at right now, is that a large residential development is being presented, and it's not connected to the university, and I can appreciate the challenge that you're faced with at the moment. As we look at this, and I certainly commend Mr. Gendron in the last meeting, wanting some extra time to really review this particular project, and I looked at it and spent a lot of time on this project. And the concerns that as we look at this, and as I look at this, is that if it's approved as residential housing, students can begin to live in there. You can rent it out. There's nothing to stop that from happening, and it can become student housing without all of the provisions, all of the safeguards, all of the management tools, all of the connections that you would want to see with the student housing relative to the university. So the concerns as you look at this site is if students begin to live in there, as it's being proposed, your connection to the pedestrian connection as proposed, and I think I spoke with Attorney Flood. I think if we can come up with some solutions on this, but right now as proposed, we're looking at walking down Marginal Street and either taking a right and going around up what used to be the old S Bridge, I'll show my age, and down Pawtucket Street, or down Middlesex Street and Wilder Street, and also from even through automobile connection is the one way in and out through Marginal. Coming out, you have to take a left, go down to the stop sign on Wilder, take a left onto Wilder. So the connection is really, the intent of convenient access certainly isn't there. And I can appreciate the fact that it's not being presented as dormitory housing. I understand that. However, the reality is that you've got a large 110-unit building being proposed that is in the back of an industrial area, by railroad tracks, by the DPD, and I think most likely it's going to probably end up, whether it's designed to, is to have some students in there. My concern as I look at this is if this is approved, we lose those controls. What I'm looking, and for my colleagues to discuss, and I think there might be some common ground we can come up with and some ways to address this, but is if there is some sort of a threshold we can develop and some sort of monitoring through the DPD relative to student composition within that structure. And if it does become, and I don't know what the magic number is, 25% occupied by students, that some sort of a management plan would be put in place to address some of the issues. Also, I think there's some challenges with the physical disconnect to the university. And I understand that perhaps we could put some sort of a connection between through Marginal Street, if we can come up with something. What was key to me for a safety issue in the connection was that bridge, covered bridge across the railroad tracks. I was at the site yesterday. I spoke to Ed Weiser out there, and I think we were out there for 45 minutes, an hour, and the train went by twice while we were there. So obviously that's an active train line. I think I really would like to see some sort of physical connection. I think that's a concern, and whether it can be incorporated as it sits, or whether we can come up with something that, if it becomes, again, hits the threshold, or if this building becomes dormitory use at some point in time, that would be required, that would have to happen. But something in there to connect that. Now, having said this with this project, I do not want to set precedent in other institutional zones in this city where we're reacting 6 months, a year from now, where we're getting a large residential project presented to us, where it's going to affect the neighborhood. This is a unique site, I can understand. It's kind of tucked away over there. So some of the concerns we would have with managing student housing, we don't have residents here that are concerned with that. And I can see that when you look at the physical location of this particular site. But be that as it may, I'm concerned with the implications of a project like this in other areas of the city. And I can tell you, other neighborhoods will be very glad that we're taking a hard look at this. And Mr. Chairman, that's my comments on the project at the moment.
Thank you, Mr. Fischett. Mr. Gentleman?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So first of all, I want to thank the applicant for their willingness to go along with yet another delay, because I know that you've seen several for various reasons, and I appreciate you're willing to sign on to another 2-week delay. There were some issues that were brought up at the last meeting by Mr. Fischett that I thought were kind of thought-provoking, and it made me want to consider these things again. And rather than vote against it that night and deny the permit, I really felt like I needed more time to consider all the options and consider what we could do to make this a better project. I think Mr. Fischett brings up some good points about the institutional zone. It was intended for institutional use, but other uses are not prohibited. And not only are they not prohibited, it's wide open. I mean, there's no restrictions on what you can do there for other uses, which is problematic, and this is a good example of how that can happen. I think this project works well for student housing, and I know the university needs more student housing, and I know the university is important to the city. I'm a big supporter of the university. It's vital to the city's long-term success, and I agree that they need more student housing, so we should be trying to find ways to provide that. At the same time, as Mr. Fischett pointed out, we're going to be seeing this is probably going to be a bigger issue in the future, right? We're going to be seeing more and more requests for student housing. And so this is kind of a trial balloon, right? We need to get our act together on how we're going to deal with student housing going forward, which is why I support Jerry's initial motion to have a closer look at the institutional zone. But that's something we can handle concurrently here. Talking about this project particularly, I think it works well as student housing. As a residential housing project, I really don't like it. The primary thing to me is if you look at the abutting zone, the zone of the abutting neighborhood, if you impose those restrictions onto this abutting lot, you could have a maximum number of 72 units on that land. This proposal was for 110. Which is obviously way, 50% higher than what would be in the abutting neighborhood. Now, I know the institutional zone doesn't have any restriction on units like that. However, I think that right there could be a reason why you could say it doesn't conform to the neighborhood character and therefore vote against that special permit, which is why it gave me reason to want to think about this more carefully. That said, I think that if this project were to include the features that could make it a good student housing project, then I think I could see beyond some of those shortcomings, because there's a good chance it's going to become primarily student housing in the future. But I just want to make sure that if we approve this, that we provide the features that make it a good student housing project. And to me, there's two primary things that we need here. One is access, and the other is oversight to make this work as a residential apartment complex that we know may be targeted for student housing in the future. Now, the access one is the one that Mr. Fischett brought up already, and that, to me, the bridge really helps to make this a more viable project. If we could condition this so that the bridge be included as part of the project, it was part of your original project, that would certainly make me feel a lot better, Mr. Flood, did you want to comment on the viability of making that happen?
If this becomes a dormitory with the University of Lowell, there's no question that we'll build that bridge. But right now, we do not have that luxury to do that, because in order to do that, you need easements from the university. And as you all know, we're in litigation right now.
So
So
does
we
that mean
can't-
we can't get that easement from the university?
Correct.
Is that because of the current litigation?
Because of the current litigation, it'll look like they're dealing with us once again in this, like they're saying in this lawsuit. Now, it's our hope that we're going to be, we're going to win this lawsuit, and
Yes.
it'll become, and we will agree to do that if
Right.
it becomes student housing.
Right.
But I think
So I hear what you're saying. That said, I'm a little uncomfortable relying on the hope that you win the lawsuit, and because I think it's likely to become student housing whether you win it or not.
well,
Is there any way? So, is there any way that the suggestion was thrown out there that maybe the city could broker an agreement with the university, or an easement with the university, that could potentially be then transferred to a private developer? Aaron, I mentioned this to you before the meeting. Do you have any comment on that type of arrangement? Any precedent for that?
I'm not really aware of the city's ability to take on an easement, access easement, and then grant that easement over to the university, and what that means legally in this case. I would imagine this is all very new territory. I can certainly look into and ask if our city solicitor thinks that's something that can be accommodated, but I really wouldn't say there's a good chance of it. But it's something that can be researched.
Okay. As an alternative, what about shuttle access? Could we shuttle access, like UMass Lowell shuttle access? Could they provide you at least the assurance that they would allow their shuttle to run through the site if it were constructed as an apartment
I don't
complex?
know, but once again, there's the same issue, that they're getting favorable treatment as a dormitory at this point, and that's what this whole lawsuit's about.
Yeah. So you think that would have the same litigation issue?
I think it's the same issue. It's the same issue. Now, I thought of one alternative
What's that?
on access would be to put a pedestrian gate up on this end of Marshall Street, so we can walk up the wall and up that way, so we don't have to go around it. But, I think that's the only other alternative at this point that we can follow.
Right.
But like I said, I have no problem conditioning any approval in the event that we are successful in the lawsuit, in the event that this becomes a dormitory with the university, that bridge will be built. Because that was always our intention.
Yeah.
And it was our intention to build a dorm, and unfortunately, this happened. And I think if...
Right. So let me ask you, is there anything that has to be done on your site to prepare for the construction of a bridge there?
It's the same configuration of the building. It's going to tie right into the building, correct? Jim can answer that.
Can you,
Pick up the microphone, please, so people at home can't, and just give us your name for the record, please, sir.
Jim McCletchy, Brazzi Development.
Thank you.
We do plan to construct the building to accept the bridge if, in the future, it becomes a dormitory.
So-
if we are successful in the lawsuit, for instance.
so that construction will be done
Within the
whether it's a residential apartment construction or whether it's a dormitory
That's
construction?
correct. That's
Okay.
correct. It's going to be built the exact same building, and the connection will be there. If it's used, it's used. If it isn't, it won't be.
And how much of an additional investment do you think it is to construct this building so that it accepts a bridge?
Probably 70 to 100,000 range.
Okay.
The additional structure.
Okay. All right, let's, so if I may, I'm just going to table that for a minute. Oversight, and that is, in the event that this is a dormitory or in the event that it's a residential apartment dwelling that's going to be widely accessed by students, it'd be good if we could have some level of oversight there. Do you have any plan for that?
As I suggested to Mr. Fischette, because we did speak on the phone today, that we'd be glad to make our rent rolls available to the city, to the DPD, and if 50% or more of the use of the building is students, then we'd work with the DPD to come up with a proper management plan.
So say that again, I'm sorry,
that our rent rolls at the building will be available to DPD for examination at any time.
Uh-huh.
If 50% or more of the use of the building is by students at the university, we'll be glad to work with DPD to come up with a management plan to handle it. I mean, I don't know what's going to happen at this point in time, but we're willing to do that in the event that it is used by students.
Okay. And that, would that include 24-hour management of the building, oversight?
Oh, you're going to have management in there now? 50%. Yeah, 50%, they could agree to that, yeah.
So in my mind, it's not so much the, reacting to the fact that students are moving in, but I would like to I would like this complex to go in so that it's attractive to students. Because again, I have this concern that as a residential apartment dwelling, it's too dense. So, the 50%, that says I'm going to react to the fact that students are moving in. I want you to set this up so that it can be marketed as a student building, so that it doesn't turn into a residential.
Private dorm, yeah, if the city saw fit to change the zoning to allow a private dorm, then you wouldn't have that problem, and we could provide that, but right now, we have to be connected with the university in order to do it in the zone, and that's what that bridge does. It's unfortunate. I mean, I think it's a perfect spot. I think everyone worked hard to come up with that decision, and I think it came about because someone didn't get the bid.
How about 25%?
I think that's asking too much. I think that's asking too much.
See, I think that's fair. I mean, I think that, again, we want to set this up so that it's attractive to students.
I know that, and that's why I think 50% gives you that control at that point. I mean, he's got to spend a lot of money, and if he's only got 25% for 24-hour services.
25%, that's 30 units.
Huh?
It wouldn't make economic sense. The problem is, we wouldn't have...
Sir, if you get the microphone, please? Thank you.
The way that the zoning works, we couldn't run it as a student housing as we're building it. Because we can only have, I believe, three unrelated people per unit. And the density, it would be too expensive for most students. The prices we're gonna have to charge would be too expensive for most students, rather than double occupancy, where we get 4 students in a room. We're not going to have that, so it's going to be cost prohibitive for a lot of the students, unless the zoning gets changed, or unless we win the lawsuit and we get reunited with the university in the future.
Okay.
Okay.
I think that's the start, Mr. Chairman. I'd be willing to go a little step further. If there was a problem, if you saw a problem after 25% was in there, we'd come back to reconsider it. But I wouldn't want that condition to be put on until we get 50. But if you saw a problem, and like I said, we'd make our rent rolls available, then we'd come back and we could consider some sort of a management plan.
Okay. A couple other things that I wanted to ask you. These are actually somewhat unrelated to the student access. Number one is, that train is right there. I mean, it's got to be probably 30 feet from the property. And I've talked to people who live across Middlesex Street and up those streets, and they hear that train when it goes by. It seems to me that if it would be a better project if we could use some soundproofing materials in construction of the building, and even the fence that goes along the rail. Would you be willing to consider that?
Why don't you respond? I think you made it green.
Yeah, the design, as it's designed, the side facing the tracks is, we've hired a sound consultant to design that face of the building to remediate a lot of the train sound. And we've used all the state-of-the-art products, including high U-value windows to attenuate as much noise as possible coming into the
building.
up to the extent that it was acceptable to the university housing standards and I believe classroom standards.
Okay.
So we
And-
have addressed that. It's in the design.
And how about the fence? Can we
Well, the fence-
modify
the
that fence design?
The fence only blocks, the first floor is parking, so it's, our sound engineer said it would not help anything to do any sound remediation at that level, so we did it on the face of the building itself.
I'm thinking on the site, though, as well. You know, I think that,
Well, we
know,
have a 12-foot fence there, a
Right.
12-foot non-climbable
but it's a chain link
fence.
fence, right?
Pardon me?
It's a chain link fence?
Well, no, it'd be a solid, not a chain link fence, it's a non-climbable fence, so it'd be a slatted fence that you can't.
Chain
Yeah,
link with slats.
Slats, vertical slats, so you can't climb up it.
Would you be willing to consider a fence made from soundproofing materials?
Well, it wouldn't do us any good, actually.
Well-
Because it's only blocking the parking garage.
In the grounds? The parking lot, the grassy area that you have?
I mean,
First floor of the building, Steve, is underneath its parking.
right.
I understand.
Yeah, well,
But the grounds of the site, I'm talking
I
about.
relied on our sound engineer that we hired to do that, and he told me it wouldn't do us any good, so we kind of nixed that idea, and it's very expensive.
Okay,
And we're spending a lot of money on that face of the building.
okay.
Right.
Would you be willing to sit with DPD and review that within costs
If there's another
constraints?
design within the same cost range, we'd be certainly willing to
Okay.
consider it.
All right. A couple other things. There's a DPD has talked about the need to access, to get an easement to access a drainage pipe, access for a drainage pipe that would be on the rear of your site, and they'd require an easement to get to that. Is there any issue with that?
Done.
Been done? There you go, you're way ahead of me.
Delivered to the city engineer. There's an old tunnel that went underneath, and they wanted a drainage easement to go under that, and if,
So can you provide that to the DPD?
absolutely, Lisa DeMayo has it, I hand-delivered it to her,
Okay.
city engineer. We have that, I have a copy of it here signed and everything, but it's the only copy I have. But
How are you going to handle trash on the site?
It'll be private delivery, right?
So, that mean there'd be a dumpster someplace?
No, it's internal, there's an internal trash room with 2-yard roll-off on a compactor. So when the truck gets there, they open up the door, bring the container out, dump it, and go away.
Okay, so you'll have trash and recycling?
Trash and recycling room on every floor, and a trash compactor room on the first floor.
Okay. So I guess that's it. That's really all I have in that regard. You know, the other thing was an elevation plan, to be submitted and approved by DPD.
You did that, we've done that. I think we did that, right?
The ones that I have don't necessarily match the floor plan of the building. So for instance, where the double door for the compactor and trash room isn't shown on the elevation.
I thought you did that.
Yeah, I believe we emailed you those.
I don't know if I have a copy of it.
New elevations with the doors. They are done. I thought we emailed them to you, but maybe we didn't.
I have one that's dated December 4th. I don't know if that,
But, well, they are done, and it was just a question of actually the trash room door not showing on the elevation of the building.
and there's, I mean, it was some smaller details, but things like that. The overhead door for the access to the parking garage didn't match the site plan layout. Just kind of these kinds of things. So in the elevation, it showed the overhead door on the far left of the building, whereas in fact, as you can see on the site plan, it's further east?
They have been redone.
Okay.
And I can give them to you immediately, but
Okay.
unfortunately, I don't have them with me right now.
And just with respect to the trash in the haul out, I think I talked to you about this a little bit, Jack, but the way it shows on the site plan is that there's parking right in front of the recycle and trash room. So I guess one of my questions is how are you going to deal with removal? Is that going to impact parking spaces?
Yeah, give it to him, that'd be good. Okay. The other thing, lighting on the site. Would you have an objection to working with DPD to make sure they're satisfied with the location of the lighting on the site? Okay. All right, let me just back it up one more time to the oversight. Can I ask you to work with DPD on a plan? Would you be willing to sit down and work on a plan with them that would be instituted when you hit a 50% mark?
Oh, sure, we're willing to work with them, Steve.
All right. You know, I think this becomes a great project with those things and the bridge. But given the current litigation situation, I can see that you're in a bit of a tough spot. You know, I have confidence that, you know, you're going to try to do everything you can to work through that and construct a bridge when that happens. So, you know, I think I'd be willing to, under those conditions, you know, support the project.
Thank you, Mr. Jenner. Mr. Lockhart, any questions?
Yeah, I have a comment and a couple of comments, really. I couldn't agree with Mr. Frichette's analysis more about the institutional zone. I think we as a planning board have to address that to facilitate the development of dormitory space for the university, you know, as easily as possible. We got to make that an easy process that's acceptable to the neighborhoods, just to assure the growth of the continued prosperity of the university. Or I think that's a separate issue that we should address, and I look forward to participating in that process. This project before us tonight, I think we have to be careful what we impose on this development, because it's being presented as a residential development, and it's not being presented as dormitory space as much as it's needed. So, again, going back to Mr. Frichette's comments and just thinking about it a little bit, I personally would like to see it go forward with some conditions. And that's just to protect us from it becoming student housing and having some controls in place to manage that process easily. And those points of condition might include a percentage of student occupancy, whether it's 50% or something else, connection to the university, whether it be a shuttle or the bridge, and some kind of management oversight if it reaches that threshold where there is, a significant student population. I think we as a board have to adopt some kind of conditions just to protect ourselves and the neighborhood up there from what could...
We have no problem with that, and maybe if it becomes at a 50% population in the building, maybe at that point in time, the university will acknowledge it and then provide some sort of a shuttle at that point in time.
Yeah,
but I think
that
the problem with the bridge is because of the ongoing litigation.
Right, there's a little bit of an issue,
Yeah.
well, not a little bit of an issue, but
Big
I think
issue.
we have to be, as Mr. McClutchy pointed out, there's some economics involved here, and we can't, and we all got to realize that to make it work. We want to make it work. I do. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Lockhart. Mr. Claremont?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. As we've been looking at the big picture past few weeks over this project, obviously, at one point it was approved for residential use, and then came back with dormitory use, also approved. through circumstances, we find ourselves now looking back at the residential use. I think we all agree if it was more geared toward the university, would be happier about it. But that being said, what do we do now? We need to move forward. I think that this site has been a difficult site for many years, and I'd like to see something move forward with it in a positive direction. And I applaud the applicant for being willing to invest the money that's going to be invested in this project. So I certainly would be in favor of it moving forward. I think most of the specifics of the project have been addressed as we've gone along. I'm looking back at when we first looked at this project by a memo dated December 30th, and the concern at that point was dealing with the student issues if it was going to be rented to students. And as I listened to my colleagues, it appears that everyone appears willing to work towards a plan that if we hit, say, 50% occupancy by students, then all of the things that we've discussed concerning the access, concerning all the other things we have to put in place with the students in mind would then take place. Perhaps as a suggestion, I don't know if it would be giving the rent rolls on a yearly basis or 6 months or whatever it may be, but when we get to the point where there's maybe 25% occupancy working towards the 50, that we start the conversation at that point, so that when we hit the 50, we've got everything in place, with the students in mind. I think that'd probably be the best way to go about it, rather than all of a sudden we're at 50 or 60 or whatever, and we're not ready to move forward to convert it, so to speak, to have the students in mind. So that'd be the only comment I have in that regard. If that's something that would be workable, I'd like to work that into the conditions.
Thank you. I just have a few comments looking back on the history of this matter. As indicated by Mr. Clermont, the matter was before the board in '05. We did approve it as condos at that point in time. At that point in time, we had the president of the neighborhood association came down and said they had a meeting with all the neighbors, and the neighbors spoke in favor, and she relayed that information to us. We had nobody here who was present that night who spoke against the matter. Then the matter came back for the dorms. I think all the board members were happy to see the dorm issues, and I know all of us were concerned about putting the bridge over the railroad tracks to reach the parking. That was a big key element, so they'd have the access to the south campus. The question was, it was an easement, talk about moving the easement down further. And then, obviously, you can't move an easement. The easement has to stay where it is. You have to present the new easement, and we're hoping that that matter would work out. At that point in time, the board voted in favor of it, hopefully for the dorms for the university, so we could have students living in the neighborhood. And then, when it hit into litigation, the matter came back again, and then the matter came back in January before this board. The applicant had some opposition or wanted to speak with some of the neighborhood, so the applicant came in and requested that the matter be continued further so they could sit down and speak with the neighbors. And the result of sitting down with the neighbors at our public hearing last week, we had a representative from the neighborhood. Ms. Seppi was present. She indicated that she met with Attorney Flood. She had over 50 people in her living room. They spoke about the project. Their main concern was what are the changes, what were changes, where there's going to be a house was bought by the applicant, so the access would come in and out of Middlesex Street. And they were concerned about the traffic flood in their neighborhood. We did ask Ms. Seppi some questions. She said they had some other questions about the site, but besides that, all the people that were present that night, all 50 of them, when all the questions were answered, they were in favor of the project. So basically, I think we'd all like to see the university involved in this matter. However, that's the issue we have no control of. So the question is, how do we work with the site that's given to us tonight? I was there a week ago yesterday, and the gate was open, so I walked the site and spent a decent amount of time there. So the question comes out on the special permit is the neighborhood character. So if you look behind there, you have railroad tracks, parking lot, then your main society. To the right of that parking lot is the university. To the left of this site is DPW parking facility with all the city trucks there. In front of the site, you have multiple housing units. You also have Mr. Weezer, who's present here tonight, his car wash. And then to the right of the site on Marginal, and I think when you come out of Marginal from that site, the first home to your right is a 6-unit property. Nobody has spoke in opposition of this plan. We've had representatives from the neighborhood here twice speaking for it. I know it looks at neighborhood character. It is a different type of neighborhood. I know you talk about the sound of the railroad tracks and stuff of that nature, and, you know, we like to keep that quiet if we can, but I think the people, when they move in, they're gonna know what the railroad tracks are, they're gonna know what's there on that site already. It's not like other aspects that come into the site. So it does set up a different type of site. I'd like to see the housing approved. I think in Lowell, we are moving forward, a lot of communities are not, and if we can get rental property onto that site, and I do believe, wherever it's located, it's gonna attract students. If we can get the students out of Nashua and into Lowell to better the city of Lowell, I'm all in favor for it. The neighbors are in favor for it. The neighbors have spoken in favor of it. We all wanted to make it university dorms. For litigation, it's out of our control. So I know Mr. Flood said in the future is, you know, if you want to continue this out and put it on for report in the future, and if anything changes on that Superior Court case, you'd be more than happy to bring it back before this board. This board can make any change, any determination to keep track of the site. Mr. Flood said, continue it out, Mr. Linehan, board members, and you can keep any controls you want on that. If things go in our favor, we'll come back to you for the dorms, hopefully tied into the university, and it's everything that everybody wants. Since we can't do that at this point in time because of litigation, they want to move forward with this. You look at the site, the foundation's in, the walls are in, the copy of the article in the paper shows the picture, just said it's detected. It's sitting there now, you have half the stuff up. How long it takes to go to Superior Court? I don't know, but in the neighborhood, I'm sure people don't want to sit there and look at foundation, half the walls up. So you say, as planners, what do we try to do to better the situation? And I think if we put control on it, as indicated by the board members, what they're willing to see, about the 50% management control, the access if you have the dorms in there. I know for reasons, as Mr. McCletchy said, we can't advertise it because that interferes with the court case that's going on. I understand that. And I think people who are going to come there are going to say, this is close to the university. And those are the people who are going to go to the university. It is, as Mr. Flood indicated, I like the fact of putting the pedestrian gate, if you could show that, Jack, right there, on Marginal Street, so students could walk that way instead of come out by the car wash and walk all the way around. It's a little bit of a walk, but when I went to school at UMass Amherst, it's a lot closer than places I had to walk to the class, and I went to most of those classes. So I think trying to keep this, it is close to the university. I do agree with Mr. Fischett. We should have it changed in our zoning, but the question is, do we hold up the applicant for that because of the zoning question is? I know, and I applaud Mr. Fischett for all the zoning that he's done in the past for us, and we've done, and I know you look at what the intent of the zoning is, but when our cases go before the court, the intent of the zoning doesn't matter. It's what's written on those bylaws. It's the intent of any statute. Doesn't matter what the intent is, you take it by way it's written. And I think if we had more zoning for the institutional zone, and I see other places coming up, the question is, will we have precedent for this in the future? I think other places will come forward. And as they'll tell you in the land court, as Mr. Flood knows very well, pieces of land are unique. That's why when it comes to a piece of land, the land court allows what's known as specific performance. It doesn't just allow monetary figures. And so therefore, when we look at a project, we have to look at the project as it affects the neighborhood, who spoke in favor, and how we can make the site better. I think the concessions that are being made by the applicant to try to make the site work, and hopefully, if we can approve it with conditions that make everybody satisfied, if we put it out for further report, then we can keep control on this project, on how it goes on parallel tracks with the Superior Court and/or this project. If they lose a case in Superior Court, which basically we come contingent upon, we know we have this project here. If we put down what the rental agreement is, what percentage is, then we have control of that. But I think tonight we have to vote on this project and not the one that we previously approved that everybody was in favor of. So I think basically you have to hear from everybody and looking at this site because it does have a different type of neighborhood character. I mean, it has the residential, it has the university, it has multi-units, it has a DPD garage, it has the car wash in front. I'm sure Mr. Weezer would like to have the students coming through his car wash. That's good for the whole city. I mean, he likes the business. I see him here tonight. I don't know if he's for or against it, but
I think you,
I mean, you know, it's part of the neighborhood. Everything is in that type of neighborhood. I mean, you look at all the different things in there. So I think if we could somehow put the conditions on it, then hopefully if we can bring it back and leave it out for a date for report to bring it back, we can keep it on track of what's happening. So those are my comments, and as I stated the last meeting, I'm in favor of the project, and any way we can put things on it to make people, you know, happy with what type of conditions can be imposed, so we have the project review, I'd have no problems with that.
Mr. Chairman, if I could, one other thing that I wanted to mention is the City of Lowell design planner submitted a landscape plan to us that includes plantings that takes into account, you know, the access to sun and you know, likelihood that it would, the plantings would survive. Would you have any problem using that plan as your landscape
I think
plan?
I said the last time that we'd be more than willing to sit down and work with the planner.
Okay.
The landscape plan, to come up with a plan.
Okay, that's acceptable to the DPD.
Huh?
That's acceptable to the DPD.
Yeah, that we'll meet with them, sure.
Sure, okay.
Any further comments from the other board members? No?
Mr. Chairman, we have both the site plan
Yes,
and special permit.
We require 2 votes.
2 votes,
The
okay.
site plan needs a majority vote, which would be 3 votes, and the special permit needs 4 votes. So therefore, what I'd like, if we could, is to take each vote independent.
So, Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that we accept the site plan, or approve the site plan with the following conditions, and my colleagues can feel free to add anything that maybe I left out. Include construction in the building to accept a bridge in the event that one becomes necessary. Provide a pedestrian entrance along Marginal Street, or at Marginal Street, to allow for student foot traffic. Impose a student oversight plan when the student population reaches a 50% level of residency. Work with DPD when that population reaches 25% to develop an acceptable oversight plan in advance. The oversight plan should include 24-hour monitoring, a contact person available to the city, and an acceptable behavior policy. Work with DPD to develop an acceptable lighting plan. Provide an elevation plan to be reviewed by DPD. Use noise dampening materials in the construction of the building, and review with DPD other low-cost fencing options for sound dampening. Submit a copy of the utility easement to the City of Lowell, which I think you just did. And use or work with DPD to develop an acceptable landscaping plan.
There has been a motion. Any further discussion by board members?
Excuse me, I'm sorry, Steve, that was a lot. Do you mind just
Sorry.
running through it?
Watch
No,
the tape.
It's fine, it's, make sure, so I can have it. I have, include that the construction of the building, it can accommodate a footbridge. 2, I have allow for gate on the western end of the site for foot traffic along Marginal Street. The applicant will implement an oversight program or measurement program once the tenancy reaches 50%, or student tenancy is 50%, working with DPD at a 25% level to develop this plan, which may include or will include a 24-hour on-site management and direct contact with the city. Was there another piece to that?
And an acceptable behavior policy for student residents.
Was there a timing of this? Is there like every 6 months some sort of report that's provided, or how does that trigger?
Maybe we can get to that a little further.
Okay,
I'm
all right.
gonna bring that issue up
was part
myself.
of that or not.
Okay.
And then I lost it after that.
Then he wanted some,
Work with DPD to provide an acceptable lighting plan. Provide an elevation plan to be reviewed by DPD. Use noise dampening materials in the construction of the building, and review with DPD other low-cost fencing options for sound dampening. Submit a copy of the utility easement to the City of Lowell, and work with DPD to develop an acceptable landscape plan.
Thank you.
okay, so there has been a motion, we have discussion. Mr. Lockhart?
Yeah, I'd just like to I think Mr. Claremont's point about opening a discussion regarding these conditions when the student population reaches a 25% level.
He said, that was in there. He said
Is
that.
in there?
Yeah.
I didn't hear that.
Yeah, he
That's-
said that.
And also, the bridge is great, but I think because of the proximity of this, we should have a shuttle service in there somewhere.
Well, if possible, yeah,
You know, that should be part of that.
It could be part of the review.
review,
Yeah,
yeah.
part of the review, that's all.
Right. Thank you, Mr. Lockhart. Any other board members?
Mr. Chairman, just to clarify, if we could just further language, and I know they're going to construct for the covered bridge, and I think that's the intent, but is to clearly, if it does resort to dormitory, clear dormitory use, and all of this gets settled, that it'll just clearly say that a covered bridge
Bridge.
over the railroad tracks will be constructed.
Yeah, I have no problem with that.
Yeah.
I've always agreed to
So
that. yeah.
we'll make that another condition.
If we could.
The bridge will be constructed in the event it becomes a
Yeah.
sole student housing.
With the university, right.
Right,
Yeah. Yeah, with the university, right.
with the university.
Yeah.
I'll second the motion.
Any further discussion on that? Just another side note of that, Ms. Flood, I know if, and what you said before, I just want to make sure I understand this, if you prevail in the lawsuit, you're prepared to come back before this board,
Right.
show us the new plan,
Right.
and most likely you request that we vacate this plan and go forward with the
But we'll
initial.
probably amend this plan and then provide for the bridge and what have you, sure.
So you'd come back with the
Yeah.
original plan, and that's when we would,
Right.
you know what we're
We'll
looking for on
amend
the
this
bridge.
plan to provide it for a dormitory.
Okay, all right. 'Cause I remember you said that last time, I want to make sure I had that fully, okay. So, the motion's been made in regards to the site plan with several conditions. The motion has been made and seconded. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes yes, so that matter carries with 5 in favor and 0 against. Now, we have to take up, the second motion would be for the special permit.
That's for neighborhood care.
We could accept, if we're going to vote for that, we can include the same conditions as before, or we can put different conditions on, or make a completely different vote.
Mr. Chairman,
Go ahead.
so I'll make the motion that we accept we approve the neighborhood special permit with the same conditions.
Can you repeat those conditions?
Very funny.
Any discussion on the motion for approve the special permit with the conditions as indicated on the special, on the site plan?
Yeah, I'll second that, Mr. Chairman.
Motion's made and second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes yes, the matter approves 5 in favor, 0 against.
Thank you very much, and hopefully,
And one other caveat, could we just schedule this out for a future report date? So as things go parallel
Sure.
with this, we can report back to us?
you'll just have Aaron let me know whenever you want us in, I'll
As I
come
indicated
in.
before, we know which way they're both going, we can get some feedback.
Sure.
Whether it just be communication through you to Aaron to put on our agenda for
I'll
old
keep-
business.
I'll keep him up to date.
I mean, for example, if you have results one way or another in Superior Court.
You'll
that
be
come
the
to us.
first to know. You'll be the first to know.
And then if, one way or another, then at least we'll know what issues we want, and then maybe we can come back for this project for further update report, because as progress has started, then some of these conditions here are talking about the 25% to 50%, and you can tell us how far along you are and how matters are going.
Sure. How long's construction? What do you figure construction's gonna be? You wouldn't be ready till next spring, would you? Or next fall?
Not for this coming
No, so we probably won't be ready for another,
be next summer, yeah.
next summer, so, I mean, we wouldn't know anything about students till that point in time anyway, so, I mean, if you want us to come back every 6 months, I have no problem doing that and bringing it up to
Or
date.
just that,
Or if we hear it, because he's paying. But
He might show up without you
if
next
we
time.
hear from the court, I'll report it
You don't need you.
immediately.
Right, yeah, so if you can just,
Yeah.
once you hear something, send a letter to him, and if we have any concerns on how this is
Yeah.
going, we can contact you.
Call me
bring it
and I'll
back,
get to
And
them,
we'll bring that under old business. That way we're keeping on track, what's going for both the issues pending as well as what we approved tonight. Very good. And that way, if we have concerns on anything, yeah, we can bring it forward. Thank
I
you.
got one thing I just want. This institutional zoning,
Right, I'm gonna have Jerry take a motion up on that now.
yeah, let's
Okay,
get that on the record.
since we have this back, Jerry, I want to backtrack to what you said about the institutional zoning, because I think we all agree on that. I think we have to take this as a side vote from this one here. So
Agreed.
why don't you, give us your recommendation again, and we'll take a matter on that.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, just a recommendation that we would vote that that we would request that the DPD revisit the institutional zone and work with the university and perhaps the city council zoning subcommittee to address some of the apparent, and I'll refer to as deficiencies in that institutional zone, as we look forward in trying to address in a positive way, the university has made, well, I'll keep this in the form of a motion, in order to manage the process of constructing dormitory housing throughout the city of Lowell.
Student housing concerns in the city.
In the city, yes. Yeah.
You understand that, Aaron, what basically is, he's making a motion that we reconsider looking at the institutional zone to consider student housing in the city.
Yeah, I think I have that.
And Mr. Chair, and as well as in relation to the master plan as well, because I think we've got some issues relative to
goes different
relation
directions
to the
in
master.
different
Yes,
spots.
exactly,
Yeah.
yes, yep.
So on the side note, we do have a motion on the floor on that matter. Anyone want to second that motion?
I'll second the motion.
Motion made and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, chair votes yes. Okay. Moving along, we have a site plan, a special permit. This is under old business. This is 7680 Roger Street. This is the old Mother Hubbard project that we approved, and the matter was to come back to us for certain updates as they move forward. Below, planning board review proposed alterations agreed upon by the applicant and the board to mitigate aesthetic impacts from changes made to the building from what was approved. The board did have a site visit through this matter, and we put the condition on when the matters are going to be changed on the site, if they can come back to us for an update. So can we hear the applicant on that, please? I think it's Mr. Gray. I know we do have some pictures in our packet tonight.
Good evening. This is just, coming back, Aaron sent me his response, the comments to the board. I've met out there a few times with Aaron regarding these issues. We're working on addressing every issue that was raised at the previous meeting. I think we pretty much have everything solved at this point. We are still working on a landscape plan to show the board with a couple of minor changes that Aaron had pointed out to the landscape plan that we had done. There was the Hooper knitting sign needed to be moved, and there was an issue with some of the arborvitaes, with the amount of arborvitaes that were going to be planted, and that's...
Covering the utilities?
Yes, that's been resolved. Aaron was correct in stating how many we were going to plant.
So you have no problem putting in the arborvitaes, what, the 6 to 7 I approved?
Yes, yeah.
And,
I think we only put 2 on there was only 2 on the plan, yeah.
and then one other question was, what is it, there was a red maple to match the size and shape of the existing tree in the corner of Perry and Rogers, I think?
Yeah, I just had one comment with that. I just wanted to make sure,
So I know you want to put the monument up there too, right? In the
Yes,
same spot?
yeah.
Okay.
There's a tree that
I just want to make sure that tree isn't, the tree that we'll plant, I'll meet with the landscaper and make sure that won't compromise the building in any way, the size of the tree, but we will make sure it fits. If you want to meet out there again, Aaron, with the landscaper, we could talk to him about that.
I think it's fine, just to, the comments I had with the landscape plan were just some discrepancies from what we all discussed on site, particularly with utility meters on the one side, and then the plan didn't, I think this is separate from what we're talking right now, but the plan didn't show I guess it would be the eastern corner of the parcel where there's going to be another tree planted, where the Concord River Greenway is going to be, and to kind of mask, I guess, those stacks back there. So those were the two big issues. If you're fine, I'm fine with having the landscape architect provide a landscape plan and have our design planner take a look at it, make sure it's going to fit and work. That's fine.
Okay, sure.
Just those two issues are the only two that I wanted to bring up.
I think how you triangle the portico and put the trim on there, it does make a big difference. Just looking
Yeah,
at
it does.
I'm just looking at the picture you provided to us.
Yeah, I
You
said
compare it
that
to the
to
other
Aaron.
ones.
Yeah, it
I don't know
does
if it
look
makes
good.
it look, I don't know, bigger, neater, I don't know, but it just,
Yeah.
when you look at the other ones, I don't know, it sticks out more.
Yeah, it absolutely does.
What do you think, Jerry?
Yeah, no, I went and looked at it, actually,
detail makes it...
You know, I mean, it's not a lot to it, but you do it, it makes the thing look different.
and when you add the visual line across when they're all completed, it starts to bring your view to that level as well. And I
Think it
did,
brings it down a little bit, or?
Yeah,
I
it
can't
absolutely
explain
did.
it yet, but.
Yeah, it does.
and I did inspect the work. They did a good job. It doesn't look like it's
Oh, it
patchwork.
was a good recommendation. It does make it look,
Yeah.
makes it look a lot nicer out front.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. Well, I did offer to take my hammer out and take a
I
swing
remember
at
when we
it.
did the site visit, you had a few comments on that.
No, I think they did a good job with meeting what we wanted to see out there, so, relative to those porticos.
Yeah, I think,
If I could just point out, actually, you can actually see in the background of this image, some of the gabled roofs in the background actually have a very similar treatment. So it does a nice job of bringing the building down. This small detail does a nice job bringing, as you pointed out, brings the building down, draws your eye to the pedestrian level, but it also mimics some of the details that's already existing in the neighborhood. So it's a pretty nice solution.
And then when they built back there, they wanted to see it from the street anyways. But you see it
Yeah,
on the
that's
side.
true, right.
And as they
If you walk
develop the
around
other
the
side going back. Right. Because when you go down the side, that we picked up here, we can see it because that lot is vacant, but if it goes down the side of Perry Street, it'll definitely pick up, because it'll be right across the street from each other.
Right.
Right, okay. Any board members have any further comments in regards to the, follow-up of the site plan?
Just one, that existing tree on the corner of Perry and Rogers, you gonna be able to preserve that, or is that?
Yes, we're going to keep that. I just.
You are, okay.
Yes,
I
yeah.
didn't,
We're just going to move this, the landscape plan that I presented to Aaron
Yeah.
had that sign in that corner where the existing tree is.
Right.
That'll be moved over a little bit.
and the tree will stay. Good.
And then
Okay.
the other issue I was addressing, it wasn't that, it was where the tree is going to be planted on the back where the windows are missing. I just want to make sure we have
Had to go in.
the Perry Street
Where that
side. yeah.
overhang was?
Yes, yeah.
Right. And the
Right
concern
there.
we did the site visit was make sure the roots wouldn't come through the sidewalks, and you said your landscaper could take care of that by the proper tree, correct?
Yes.
Right. And that's where you're gonna put the other monument sign out by this tree that exists now?
Yeah, it'll probably
We
be,
have a sign
as
there
you're
now.
looking at that corner from the tree, it would probably be just to the right of the tree. But I'll have that, a plan presented to Aaron so he can present it to you, showing the changes. And there were some changes on the amount of shrubs that were going to be planted to also, so that'll be corrected.
So can we adopt this as a,
We can make a motion, Mr. Chairman,
further
to
update.
accept the minor changes to the special permit and site plan approval with the additional changes referenced in the memorandum from Aaron dated February 25th.
I'll second the motion.
motion made, second, any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, chair votes yes. Good luck.
Thank you.
We heard you were stuck last meeting, you couldn't make it, you know, out of bad snow.
Good place to be stuck.
Thank you. Okay, moving along, we have another matter under old business, which was continued from the last meeting. Let me just get this set up and pull my notes together for 1 second. Okay. While they're setting the plans up, I will read the advertisement. The Lowell Planning Board, this is for the special permit and definitive subdivision plan change at 1436 and 1450 Gorham Street, which is known as 1 River's Edge. The Lowell Planning Board will hold a public hearing regarding an applicant by Resident First Development Corporation for approval of amendment to definitive subdivision approval in the planned residential development special permit for the 34.2 acre project at 1 River's Edge Road. The proposed amendment includes the removal of building lots identified as Zone 6 on the plan, located at the southwest boundary of the site adjacent to the proposed conservation land. This area, which includes a wetlands crossing, will be retained as open recreational space. The removal of the building lots will not reduce the total number of residential units. The proposal accommodates this by providing 53 duplex lots and 74 single-family lots. The original plan provided for 45 duplex lots and 90 single-family lots. Recreational open space was originally spaced throughout the project will be reduced by accommodating the shift of building lots from Zone 6. We had this matter before us a little ways back, over a month ago, and after hearing our concerns, the applicant requested that we continue the matter further so we could try to take some of our concerns back to the drawing board and proceed further. Saying that, when we hear the case from the applicant, please.
Mr. Chairman, if I just may, I will be abstaining.
Okay, so Mr. Fisher
on
will
this
be
matter.
abstaining for the record for this matter? Okay, so go ahead, please, sir.
Yep. Good evening. My name is Dennis Connors, and I'm representing the Residents First Development Corporation tonight. I think we're all pretty familiar with the intent of the plan. At the last meeting, there was some concern expressed by some of the planning board members relative to the deletion of the playground on Murray Avenue. There was no easy solution during that meeting, so I requested a continuance. After that, I requested our engineers, this is Andre Betty from Stantec Engineering, who is here tonight. I requested that they take a revisit to the site and see what the possibilities were to replicate the playground areas. We came up with a preliminary plan on 2 additional lots, one in Zone 3 and one in Zone 5, that would replicate the playgrounds. We presented the plan to the DPD staff, including Aaron. He came up with some suggestions. We had a further meeting with a number of DPD staff, changed the lots that were going to be utilized as playgrounds, and came up with the final plan that is in front of you tonight. So I think we addressed the concerns expressed by the board, and I look for your approval of the plan.
Thank you. Do you have anybody else with you, Mr. Connors, on behalf of the applicant who wants to speak on this project? Or?
Anybody speak in favor?
No, before I turn it over to them, anybody with you who wants to speak anything
No.
further? Okay.
I'm available to answer any questions. I gave you the synopsis of the issue.
Is there anybody here this evening who's present wants to speak on this new project? I know we continued it last time. I don't recall if we closed the public hearing or just continued it. But if not, if somebody's here, I'd be more than happy to listen to anybody else. Okay? Since we have people here, I'll listen to their concerns.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, members of the planning board, my name is Mark Coleman, 58 Oakland Street, Lowell, Mass. And you'll have to excuse my voice this evening. I wish to be recorded in favor of this. I've spoken before, prior, on this proposal. It is a good project, long overdue, and I urge that the planning board unanimously vote in favor of this. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Goldman. Anybody else like to speak on this project? Anybody else? Before I turn over to board members, let me ask a couple of questions. So you managed to save lot 107? That was one of the concerns we had last time? Was that with the gentleman?
I'm not familiar enough with the lot numbers, but
Yes. 107, I think the gentleman who lived right next to that last time was here and had a concern that that was originally going to be open space, then it wasn't. Which one was it?
this blue area was originally...
Okay, that's the one. Okay, that's a concern I have. All right.
What we did, like I said, I'm not a personal proponent of playgrounds and recreational...
Right. I knew it was one of those lots, but I wasn't sure which one it was.
residential subdivision. But what we came with, I left these lots here and created this new, this single-family lot we made into a potential playground, and this one here, to make up for the loss of these 2 lots.
Okay.
Okay, and I think if we're gonna have to have playground, I think it's better to disperse them throughout the subdivision, and the location have with approval from the DPD staff.
Oh, okay, all right. I knew there was one lot up there, but okay. So it was lot 89 and 80, I think it was the gentleman who was on 89, was it? And then we asked if we could possibly maybe... What number was it? Oh, 85. Oh, okay. Oh, okay. Okay. Any of the planning board members have any questions? Mr. Gentleman?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Have you spoken to the man from Lot 85 about this?
No, I've tried to stay away from both opposers and proponents of the plan. I didn't want to prejudice people either way.
So I can appreciate what you're trying to do here. The concern is, though, that that gentleman came down and spoke and said that he was concerned because he bought the house under the understanding that the lot behind him would be open space, which, you know, makes sense. That would
Well,
attract
it
me.
was, excuse me, it wasn't going to be open space, it was going to be a playground.
All right, so he bought it with the understanding that it was going to be a playground, and, you know, he was opposed to it being turned into a house lot. And so, you know, when we talked about preserving that commitment, you know, we said, why don't you try making more duplexes or something to keep the units out, but to preserve that lot, because there was a level of commitment given to that buyer. I know that would, if I bought a house thinking, you know, my kids are going to be able to play in the playground and essentially in the backyard, it would be more appealing to me than if there was a house lot in the backyard.
What I took from the board's comments that night, what they were more concerned with the design intent of the original subdivision plan that had recreation space within the subdivision. I wasn't so, I didn't feel so directed by the board that they were interested in that particular spot. As an aside, that gentleman is being transferred out of the country and has put his house up for sale, so at least talk to realtors about putting his house up for sale.
Okay.
But
Well, you misunderstood my feeling then, personally, anyway, because I wanted to save that lot, but that does change things if that person is leaving. Aaron, I have a question for you. This is a continuance on a special permit hearing. Do we re-notify residents when that happens, or do we just assume they're going to follow the schedule?
This project, we did send out notices.
You did?
This project, yeah.
Okay. I wonder, could we, would you be willing to accept a condition that those two lots be the last two lots constructed in the project? Lots 88 and 89, since they were originally intended to be open space. This would preserve them as open space, at least for the time being as you're working on the site.
the project is financially...
By the way, you mentioned that last time you were here, that you'd be open to that.
I would rather, I mean, I don't really want to make that commitment, but if I'm forced to make that commitment, I would rather have it be the last lots developed before Zone 5 starts.
In that phase, you mean?
No, not in that phase, because that would be unfair, because that's almost done. I'm saying we would develop Zone 3, which is down there, and then if we had enough buyers, develop those spaces then. This could be 2 years out. I mean,
All right. So
we're mucked in a dire economy to be selling houses right now.
Right. So you'd be willing to accept a condition that says you won't develop those lots until Zone 3 is complete?
Is fully developed.
Okay, I'd be satisfied with that.
Anything else, Mr. Jensen? No? Okay. Any of the board members? Mr. Lockhart, do you have a question?
Yeah, I have a couple of the large recreational, how does it refer to?
Open space.
Yeah, the large, mental collapse. The open space down there. Is there a management plan for that? I mean, it's mostly wetlands or is it
No, I mean, that space is uplands. It's going to require a wetland crossing. The plan is to, at the end of the project, when everything's built out, to build a pedestrian-type bridge similar to the the wooden walkways you see on golf courses, with minimal impact on the wetland area, and have some passive recreation trails in that area.
maybe some benches just to
Yeah, and one
make it accessible and open?
that's what we're trying to do, yeah. We did explore the issue. The board had given me some direction there about creating playgrounds there. All the professionals I consulted advised against it because of the distance from the developments. The opinion was that it would not be a safe place to put playground-type stuff.
Oh, yeah, no, I agree with that. Yeah.
But you did hit on an issue, and with the playgrounds, if we are going to include them in the subdivision, the question of who is going to take over, maintain, and have the liability for them remains unanswered. And in our discussions with DPD, the city of Lowell is the last person standing in this. And we were going to, after we left that meeting, that was going to be resolved, but I don't think it's been 100% resolved. There's been some talk about it.
Who's gonna hold the liability there, Doc?
Or maintain.
Or the maintenance of it, yeah. All right, just let me get back to that large open space area. Is there a management plan, will there be a management plan in place to manage that area?
No, again, it falls into the same area. There was the original covenant in the original subdivision approval that the RFDC would have to turn that any areas that aren't individually owned and fee simple by the people, the common areas, including that area, to another group.
Right.
It wasn't the best design covenant I ever saw because there's only so many groups. It was always a wink agreement between the developer and the city of Lowell that they would take control of those parcels.
Oh, we've done numerous of those in the past.
It had been offered to, I can't think of the name, but the local conservation group at one time.
Lowell Conservation Trust.
No, Lowell Conservation Trust, and
Yeah.
it had turned out. Aaron has advised me lately that there have been some renewed discussions on that, and we will pursue that.
All right, that's all I really wanted to hear, so there's some ongoing dialogue there, yeah, okay. Just a question on your proposed playground areas. There's, on the plan that I'm looking at, there's two areas, more or less square lots that are number 43 and number 107. And on the plan it says converted to recreational use. And there's a third one, that kind of triangular area up there it states recreational parcel with a total area. Is that three separate playground areas, or what were your thoughts there?
The odd-shaped parcel that isn't suitable for a playground. That is going to be more of a bench,
Just open
some
space,
bushes,
okay.
that kind of thing.
All right,
It's kind of possible memorial for somebody. We haven't decided yet.
right. Would you be willing to submit detailed plans of those playground areas showing equipment and things within?
Sometime. Huh? As a condition of this?
Yeah,
I think that's imposing an additional burden on the developer right now. That was never part of the original plan. We would work with DPD when we get to those.
yeah, when you get there, that's all.
Yeah, when we get there, we will. Yeah, we'll work with DPD. I don't want to give
Yeah, okay.
DPD design control, but we will work with them and get their approval of our submitted plan.
Okay,
Yeah. We had done some preliminary planning, showing what kind of equipment could be fit on there, but we're not the stage to do final design right now.
okay. And just one last thing on the Veterans Memorial. You'll be working with the appropriate parties on that.
Yeah, as far as the Veterans Memorial goes, we have submitted, a schematic plan of where we propose to put it. And when we start construction again, we plan to implement that plan. I just need the engraving, the face that they want on the monument.
Yeah.
And
Well,
I'll
you'll work with them and get
I
all
will
those
implement it,
details.
yeah.
Okay, that's all I have, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Mr. Claremont?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I guess fair to say, we're in a much different economy now than when we started this project, but it's moved along fairly nicely. We have a number of open space areas that are still to be determined who's going to be in control of them moving forward or, for all eternity. But those matters, I don't think we have to necessarily decide tonight. Those are going to be in discussion as we move forward, and you'll be back here for lot releases as needed and things of that nature. So I'm comfortable with it as is. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Let me ask that a question. The stuff that's highlighted in the yellow now? Right. Those changed since last time you've been here?
Yeah.
That was to pick up the extra green space?
No, those highlighted in the yellow, and tell me if I'm right here, Andre, those are the lots that had to be reconfigured in order to, we had to take single-family lots, create duplexes. This plan required more conversions of single families in the duplex lots, and the yellow highlights are meant to show the areas that were affected.
Okay.
What are those numbers, Andre?
The differences between the two plans are largely here and here.
Okay.
Those are the differences between the two plans, and these changes were made to accommodate the loss of this single family and this single family to accommodate the parks. That's the difference between the two plans.
That's what I was trying to get at when I saw, when it says on the other ones here, you know, new lot, I want to see, by looking at this without having the old one, so you have the old plan and the new plan, here's what you're showing us side by side, right? That's correct. Okay. And so you changed some of the lots to pick up the open space that the board requested at the last meeting?
That's correct.
Okay. All right. Did it change didn't change any of the size of your big green area down below, right? That all stays the same? No, that stays the same. I mean, that's there, nothing to do with it. So you just changed some from duplexes to single families to pick up the extra space to create the two new green open areas?
We changed single-family lots, we combined single-family lots to make duplex lots.
Okay. Because I saw the new plans, I didn't know if they were all or just a couple, but I've seen the two plans side by side, that's very helpful. Now, I know one of the conditions, I know you said you'll deal with the Veterans Memorial. You don't see any problem with that coming through? I know that was a...
I just need, tell me what they want, and I'll do it.
Okay, yeah. I know that was a big request from the former chairman, Mr. Zaroulis, wanted that for recognition of all the veterans who had areas up in that neighborhood.
As a veteran myself, I'll make sure that gets done.
I don't think it's a deal breaker. I think it's just, what type of things you'd like and you want to put it in, correct? Yeah. So, you've labeled where that site's going to be. You're pretty comfortable it's going to stay right there?
Yeah. Okay. I think that's the best, it's the most visible site. You get into the development, you're going to see it.
Yeah. And could you just tell me what the size of that is? What the dimensions of that lot will be there, what the proposed Veterans Memorial site will be? It's oval shape. I couldn't tell how long it may be, or...
This island here?
Right.
It's approximately 150 feet long.
Okay.
Yeah. That's an existing island that's already out there.
Okay.
And
that's currently been constructed.
We've submitted a design that's going to show the monument where it's going to go and the landscaping around it.
And approximately, what's the width of that?
I would say it's 7 feet, 6.5, 7 feet.
Okay.
In width?
Is it?
No wonder it costs so much to mulch it.
Well, so it's a good size, that's what I'm getting at. 100 plus for 25, so it's not something you're gonna blink an eye and not see it coming in. It's something where you're gonna see it is gonna give the character that we requested when you came forward to begin with. Okay. Thank you, I have no further comment. Any board members have any further comments for anything I said or either the applicant? Yes, sir. I said if anybody wanted to speak in regards to the project, is what I said. Okay. No, I just said anybody who wants to speak at all, that's all.
My name is Bruce Gary. I live at 93 Nelson Avenue. I'm going to repeat what I said the last time I was here back in January when we were talking about this, and you guys touched on it a little bit tonight, and that was the initial plan that was going on. That plan was sold to us, okay? And as an abutter, in fact, I'm an abutter from all around. I'm surrounded by this whole project here, okay? So I've been in the butter right across here. Jimmy Milanazzo came up, and I sat with him a couple of times, and he, because I was actually opposing this at the Conservation Commission, and at the Conservation Commission, a couple of things came up that was very important, and it's more so tonight than it even was then. There was a fellow on a family on Chippewa Street that abutted the project, and he spoke up, and it was something I wasn't even really aware of that night. And they were all duplexes, two families, that were all abutting his property. And he brought up the fact, and Jimmy Milanazzo concurred with it, and I spoke with him in his office at the time. And the state, I guess, has spoken about this when they gave him the land, that they did not want to create another Shaughnessy Terrace housing project, Julian Steele housing project up there. And they said that these two families were supposed to be dispersed amongst this project. You can look where my house is, and you can start counting all the two families that are going to be around it. You start right across the street, those three that are being added, they were single families, right? That's gonna be two families, duplexes. When I used to go out my front door, I used to have a view. There was a house right across the street there, right where the yellow houses are, and the housing was right aside of it. All you could see was a row of back doors for the housing project. That's all you saw. And they had little fences separating their doors. Right now, I'm going to have 6 doors I'm going to be looking at. And the only thing that's going to be, instead of having little fences separating them, I'm going to see little cement slabs coming out of the door. Not a whole lot of difference in what we had with a housing project, all right? Now I'm going to be looking out the other side, and I'm looking at two families. There's another one just up the street, like a second house over. Another one across the street. Actually, there's one right on Nelson, on River's Edge, one at the corner. Right around the corner going up, was it Murray, there's another one. This thing's all two families. You take a look at the diagram over there. It's all a cluster of two families over here. What happened to the intent that the state that gave them the land, not sold them, gave them the land, taxpayer land, okay? They gave them this land, they said, split them up. Don't create another Julian Steel like you got rid of. And what are they doing? Because they ran into financial problems, they can't put a bridge across the swamp, the wetlands, so now they're gonna stick us with a whole bunch of two families cluttered in. Now, back to the playgrounds, and I spoke very open-heartedly about that.
We were here just a while ago, we call you comments.
This is what we were sold. They showed us this. They said, here's the blueprint. In fact, I've got a copy at home, the original plans, all right? There it is. There was a house right in back of me that wasn't supposed to be there. It's there now because that walkway was supposed to come out there, that river walk, that little trail walk. Now all of a sudden there's a single family there. Nice people and everything, but still that wasn't supposed to be there. You're gonna take away that. Just because the guy's moving out of the country, that doesn't mean anything. I mean, he bought it with the intent of that property being open. He was sold a piece of an idea.
So we addressed his concerns last time, and the gentleman said he'd be happy if
Right.
we delayed development there. So we were addressing his concerns. He spoke for himself, and we acknowledged what he requested.
Right, and like I say, I was sold a bill of goods by the housing authority when they first started putting this together, and this is totally opposite what they had. Totally opposite. I mean, they were supposed to be splitting up these two families. Instead of splitting them up and setting them all throughout this project here, it's all becoming congregated right down in this area. I mean, it's all two families. That's ridiculous. Come on. They should be splitting them up like the intent was. And if they don't have, let's go back to the state. Let's see what the state has to say about this. I mean, if they don't have the money,
Matter
it's
of
not
fact,
our
Mr.
problem.
Connors addressed your concern about what the state had to say about it last time and indicated to us why we could not do so. And we indicated, Mr. Claremont indicated about all your concerns and why the plan has changed when you said that they went and changed it on their own without coming back to us for further review, and we explained to you how they did come back to us for further review.
But like I say, this is, you're cluttering us up with two families over here, you know what I mean? This is ridiculous. You're letting them play with playgrounds and everything else. Let's put it back to what they originally, what they bid for, what they put in, what they sold us. That's all I have to say.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Okay. Any further comments from the board members? If not, we'll entertain a motion.
I just have one.
Sure. Go ahead.
What is the count, Mr. Connors, regarding singles versus
I knew that would
duplex?
come up. Andre
The
has the
old
count.
plan versus the new plan. I went through that before.
The old plan over here,
I just want to say one thing. This reconfiguration, they got the playgrounds in, did cause me to lose some single-family lots. I mean, it's not a perfect world.
Let's just get
And
the
that's what
numbers
came-
on the table.
That's what came back before us, and we had further review.
Yeah.
Right.
this plan, which was originally presented, had 74 singles and 53 duplexes for a total of 180 units.
Right.
This new plan, as presented, has 68 singles and 56 duplexes for a total of 180 units.
Okay, that's all.
So the difference of two duplexes. So what's your difference of duplexes, two? You said 54 to 56?
The number of duplexes went up by 3, and the number of single families went down by 6.
Yeah, so that's not very simple.
From that revision to that revision.
Yeah,
I don't want to
that's
be,
what I wanted.
I don't want to be misleading.
No, I understand.
The original plan
Yeah, we recall.
did have, yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
I remember when it first came in.
Yeah.
I remember all the concerns, I remember the changes, I remember the changes on the road. I remember the limitation that was put on us by the state delegation that you spoke to us about, and the reason why some of the things were changed. And I know about what you said last time about the numbers. We couldn't do it unless the state delegation goes back to scratch, and we lose the whole project.
Yeah, exactly. When we were looking for ways to continue this project, I was directed to find a way to replicate the same number of units on site.
Right.
I remember we come in, and I remember being out there and meeting you way back when the thing first started on site. And due to the fact that things did change, I remember we did talk about all sorts of tying into the, down by the river, which this gentleman talked about before, and the state told us we couldn't do that, we couldn't do that. I know we had a lot of good concerns for it, tried to give it as much as we possibly could. And then, due to a lot of changes, some you had no control of, and as development started, things did change. And let's face it, part of it is the economics that if you build it and they don't, people don't buy them, what's gonna happen? A lot of places, as you said, the market's not there right now,
Though
so we're trying to adapt to the
I'm
market.
reasonably optimistic in the last couple of weeks, there has been a pickup in activity, so.
Good.
Yes, Mr. Jenner.
Mr. Chairman, I just did a quick calculation here, and I think I think the site is 11.1 acres in total. Is that right?
Sounds about right.
11.1 acres, I'm reading it off your chart. And this is, I think, a traditional two-family district, which means that if we maxed out the dwellings on this site, you could have 250 dwellings there legally by our zoning. And this plan is only 180 dwellings. So I really do think they've tried. I understand your point, sir, about, you know, more two families popping up, but I do think that the project as a whole has tried to keep the congestion to a minimum. And in a project where, you know, if a private developer was doing this, they'd be trying to max out the number of dwellings they could get in there. And they'd be here, they'd be pushing the limit to 250 for sure. And this development through the state has only got 180. So I think I think the congestion is reasonable. I think it's reasonable. And I was up there yesterday and drove around. It's a nice looking neighborhood right now.
It looks like a neighborhood now. Yeah.
And there's a lot of
Looks
children
very
out
nice.
playing actually in the open space areas, I noticed. So I think it's coming along well. I think it has the potential to be a very nice neighborhood, and I think the congestion is under control. Hopefully we won't have any more sessions where we need to turn single families into duplexes, but under the circumstances, I feel comfortable that we're doing the best we can with this site.
Okay. What's the wish of the board?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make the motion to approve the amendment to the definitive subdivision approval and the special permit as requested.
I'll second the motion.
Motion made and second, all in favor, say aye.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to add the one condition that the developer agree not to begin development on lots 89 and 88 until Zone 3 is complete.
That's
fine.
A couple more.
Okay, go ahead.
Just work with the Department of Planning and Development on the recreational areas.
Yeah, well, I have to do that before I get lot releases.
Yeah,
So
and-
that's- you got it built in on that.
And continue to address the open space management issue.
Okay, motion made with conditions, Alton, I believe it was seconded already, correct? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes yes, that matter passes. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good luck.
Can I just ask who seconded that?
Second.
Raise your hand.
Rich did.
Yeah, I did.
Thank you.
I knew it came from my left there.
I'm an abstention.
Okay, and Jerry abstained?
That's right.
Thanks.
So we have 4 in favor,
And
1
again.
abstention, okay? Moving along, we have some matters from the Zoning Board of Appeals. Did it here before us for recommendation only? We have 3 matters before us that are going to go before the Zoning Board of Appeals on March 23rd. These matters for us recommendation only. The first matter is Alice and Edward Draper for 208 Trotting Park Road. This is a suburban, single-family neighborhood. In the applicant. Excuse me, gentlemen, could you take that outside? Mr. Connors, could you step outside while I read these matters, please? Thank you. Okay. Moving back to the Zoning Board of Appeals matters, this is 208 Trotting Park Road, and this is Edward Draper and Alice Draper, suburban single-family residence, to subdivide the existing lot and construct a single-family without the required frontage, according to Article 5, which is Section 5.1 of the Table of Dimensional Requirements.
Chairman, on this matter, this would put a lot in there. I believe the frontage on the new lot would be 22 feet, where the requirement is, 22 feet. I'm having a hard time reading this, but I think it's 22 feet with the requirement of 75. And that would also further reduce the frontage on the other two lots that are already in there to the point where they're at 22 feet. Or they're well undersized frontage on all the lots. And I also think that, the precedent of allowing people with large lots essentially to, put a driveway in and put a house in your backyard is something that I really think is a bad idea. So given that, I would move that we recommend denial of this permit.
I agree with Mr. Gender in this matter. In fact, the 22 feet, I think, is 22 feet for all three lots. They're all being accessed off a single right-of-way, which is not the best way to do things. So I agree 100%. And I'd second his motion.
Okay, so the motion to deny and second. Any further discussion from board members? All in favor of recommendation of denial?
Aye.
Chair votes yes, recommend denial on that matter. The second matter is Barbara Palermo, and this is a traditional two-family neighborhood, and this is a single-family area. And to reestablish the former lot line between number 26 and number 28 North Street, allowing for the construction of a single family on the vacant lot of number 28 North Street. This matter has been before the board on several occasions in the past. It appears that the matter has gone to court from the denial of the zoning board of appeals. But looking at the plan, she has one small lot, which would be 2,346 square feet, and which she owned back in 1973. In 1996, she purchased a lot next to it. And on the old lot, she wants to give proposed easement for the second floor balcony, parking, brick driveway. So what she's trying to do is give easements from lot 2 to lot 1 to make it that you can fit both of them on there.
It appears, Mr. Chairman, she has an undersized lot abutting another lot, and by operation of law, those two lots merge in common ownership. She applied at one point for a building permit. The building inspector correctly turned her down, and at that point she appealed the building commissioner's decision to the Board of Appeals. She was shot down there. I don't believe she's got a legally tenable ground for a variance in this case because those two lots have merged. So I would recommend denial.
I think there's further comment in here from the city solicitor that the building commissioner took to heart, and as a result of the letter from the city solicitor indicated, as you indicated, that the lots merged. Okay. So there is a vote to recommend denial on that matter.
Second the motion.
Motion made and second. All in favor, say aye. Chair votes yes to deny. The next matter is a special permit, New England Institute of HVAC. Property is located at 240 Smith Street, and this is a light industrial zone. This is to allow an HVAC school in conjunction with the existing business according to the table of use regulations. So I guess there's existing business there, and the gentleman wants to add a HVAC school to the existing lot. He did give us a parking plan, which I had a little tough time going over myself, but I couldn't I had some questions on it, wasn't really sure about it, but I don't know what some of the other comments of the board.
Mr. Chairman, I don't think we have enough information presented to us to make a good judgment on this.
It looks like,
Talk about a school, and you're talking about more people, and
I mean, I
there's
guess,
no definitive parking.
yeah,
there's
I think
no-
one of the question would be is what type of enrollment you're looking at?
Yeah, I mean, the size of
You
the
know,
school,
What type of
I
space he
think
has
that-
inside the building?
admirable goal here, but
Whether he's gonna have dorms here or anything?
please.
I don't think so, but we need,
Living on
we
site,
need more
I don't
than
know.
a block that says 240 Smith Street, so,
I mean, it's a tough neighborhood up there, I mean, tight to begin with, but,
right.
like I said.
It looks like the school is already there. I was driving by there
Oh, I
yesterday,
didn't
and there's a
go
big sign, HVAC school, enter here. So I believe the school is existing as well.
Oh, is he wishful thinking and put the sign up?
No, it looks like it's been there for a while, so I suspect that somebody found out he was operating a school there and decided to push him on it, so.
Yeah, so the party might have a complaint, and so therefore inspectional services went down and took a look at it.
Yeah,
indicated he needed variance. Yeah,
I'd be
maybe, yeah.
guessing, but the school is definitely existing. But I think I agree with Mr. Lockhart that maybe we don't have enough information to make a valid.
Okay. So recommended, no recommendation at this time due to the lack of information. The board would like further information in regards to,
Yeah,
the
I'll
type of
second that.
school, what type of
Details
walking
of,
thing, yeah, okay.
the facility.
So that matters, no vote for lack of information. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
So that matter carries. Okay. That completes the zoning board of appeals. Any further general correspondences? Aaron, any concerns or anything you want to update the planning board on that we should be aware of? Anything come up in the future, anything new with your staff that you want to enlighten us on that you feel we haven't comment on?
Actually, I don't think there's a whole lot. I did bring notice of abutting towns. I don't think I sent that out to you guys in time this time around, but there wasn't, I went through it briefly. I didn't see anything that really affects the city directly. It's not adjacent, so the only other thing is we received a notice from the state for a Chapter 91 water permit.
Okay, you sent that to us, I saw that. Right?
Yeah, this one actually is for a different project. This is for the extension of the canal walkway along the Merrimack. Right now it ends at Boot Mills. This is for the extension for Boot Mills to cross the bridge at Bridge Street and then end up on Mass Mills. So it's just a notice. I have the information if you want to see the sections and plans, but it's nothing that you need
The only other thing we do have to sign that Mylar before we forget, right?
Right.
yes, we want
The
to do
gentleman
that.
comes looking tomorrow.
Yes.
And we didn't sign it. Any further correspondence from board members? If not, we'll entertain a motion to adjourn, and then we can sign the Mylar. So.
Motion to
Okay.
adjourn, Mr.
Motion to
Chairman.
adjourn. Thank you, everybody, and happy St. Patrick's Day. Sign that Mylar now and move on. They usually give us a flare.